As a multiple top 500 player and a top 10 Bucky, I'm here today to teach you guys the best way to master Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier, aka Bucky Barnes, has a total of 5 abilities, which, similar to magic, all cycle around each other in an orderly fashion. His primary fire does a whopping 140 damage on a headshot and 70 on a body. When enemies are standing next to the target that Bucky hits, they are also hit and take a small fraction of the damage that he deals, but obviously not the exact same, not including the damage fall off distance, of course. This may seem super weak considering he only has 3 shots and has to reload immediately afterwards. However, whenever Bucky uses any ability, it fully reloads his weapon and gives him shield. So the proper way to use this character is to shoot all of your bullets, use an ability, shoot him again, and then use another ability, creating an infinite cycle of abilities for Bucky so you never actually have to reload. Rip infinite ammo. Bucky's first ability, his hook, is one of the strongest abilities in the entire game. After pulling his arm back and charging up his hook for a short period of time, he can hook any target in front of him and pull them towards him. This ability is cancelled if they go behind a wall or block it with a shield, bubble, etc. You can also use it for things like hooking a cloak out of her ultimate, Iron Man when he's ulting, and other people using ults like Strange, Emma, Thing, because it's a hard CC. An extremely important thing to note about this is if multiple targets are standing next to each other, not behind each other, Bucky can hook all of them at the same time. Yes, you heard me right. All of them. This is the craziest clip I have ever hit on Bucky. I hooked all 6 people on the enemy team at the same time. The only reason Luna didn't get hooked is because she was in her ultimate, and then I killed their entire team. I'm so sorry for the bad quality. Now you get the idea. Another important thing to note with Bucky's hook is it's a really good tank disposition. What I mean by this is typically what you want to do is you want to hook the enemy's tank and then you want to uppercut them into your backline so they're in a horrible spot. This is the best way to kill tanks easily if you have good main damage, and it's the best way to get free picks for your team. That's enough about Bucky's hook. Let's move on to his next ability, his uppercut. As I just mentioned, every ability that Bucky uses gives him shield. This ability in particular lunges him forward, pulling all of the enemies that he has in its range forward with him, including tanks unless they're CC immune like Emma or Thing, and doing 75 damage to them in the form of the initial punch and then the initial punch up. Both deal 2 separate bursts of damage. This one doesn't really have much to talk about. It's more of just a get in and a get out tool. You can use it pretty easily. Beware though, it does have a 12-second cooldown just like the initial hook, so you can't use it willy-nilly. You have to be very careful when you use this to go in and very careful when you use it to go out. Maybe use it as a finisher tool after you use your ultimate and punch through the people, or maybe use it as a way to get away when someone is about to ult you. Next up is Bucky's slow. What Bucky does is he pulls his right arm back and then he punches forward and he shoots a big red ball that does about 50 damage, and it pierces through all enemies except for shields, and it slows all of them for 50% for I think about 2 seconds. This ability is not really too OP or too strong. It's just a great finisher and a great cycle tool to cycle through your reloads and your shields. An important thing to note about this ability though is it does take flyers out of the air. So if you're ever fighting an Iron Man or a Johnny or a Storm or an Ultron, which is coming next season, use this ability to hit them and they will literally get knocked on their ass, and then they're just free beams for whoever's in your team and whoever's frontlining. The last ability is Bucky's new team up with Cap, where essentially Bucky can clash with Cap, where he punches Cap's shield and everybody around him gets a shield on his team. Thank you for the devs to updating that. And everybody in the enemy team gets slowed. Or you can jump to a teammate similar to the Thing's ability, punch the floor, and give them and yourself a shield. And reload, of course, which all of these abilities do, which is a nice, easy reposition. This team up, however, is only viable if you have good synergy with your Cap. Otherwise, the clash is ass. This ability sucks. Unless you and your Cap are both in VC talking to each other, this ability sucks. So make sure you have a good Cap duo if you want to run this team up. Before we get to the next part of the video, please like and sub. I spent like way too fucking long making these videos. Honestly, I'm gonna make more guides. If you want to watch more guides, I'm gonna make more guides. Maybe no more next. I don't know. You know what? 100 likes, no more guide. Yeah. Armed and dangerous. Again. Having no support ult against the Bucky who has an ult is like a horror film. This character will rock your shit, but don't get too hyped when you hear those beautiful voice lines. Focus on how the ult works. When using Bucky's ultimate, you dive into the air and land on a target, dealing a small amount of damage in a radius. The target gets a red bar, and when their health drops below that bar, they die, and you get your ultimate back again! You can even use this on Loki clones to get your ult back and easily farm refreshes for practically infinite ultimates. However, when using this ult down main, it is incredibly important that you have other types of main DPS to burst down the tanks you hit. It is one of the best cleanup ults in the game because of this, but not a guaranteed win because it can easily be healed through, especially in higher elo, so it's important to use it when your team is ready to dive in with you and do a bunch of damage. When you get a stagger pick with this, it's not a good idea to just spam the ult button. Unless they're all grouped up in low HP, then it's fine to do it. Otherwise, you'll end up wasting your reset and you're not gonna get that second kill. Best case scenario, if you ult, get a pick, they support ult, then you use the full duration and wait the 8 seconds and ult again right at the end to refresh the timer and just kill the whole team. This ult is one of the best cleanup ults in the game. It is a great idea to use this through support ults. Like if your Magneto is about to hit a Luna or about to hit an Invis, you might as well ult that fucker at the same time. So it's a double ult and you get a refresh and it's just a free, nice, easy cleanup like you're doing a haircut. Just make sure to communicate when and who you're diving so your team can help you get those refreshes. Because if not, you're like a sit and duck out in the open. Bucky is a frontliner with decent HP and okay brawl potential, but he's got incredible peel potential for his supports when they're getting dove. You should be there most of the time fighting off Black Panther, Spidey, or any other flankers messing with your backline. He also has a great ability to disposition enemy frontliners, but if your other DPS is not helping you focus, again, they're not gonna die. So it's a good idea to be in VC and calm when you're taking the enemies out of their own position. Bucky is more of a team-supported character rather than a solo carry, but if enabled by his team in the slightest way, he can solo carry easily with good synergy. His ability to infinitely chain attacks and have infinite ammo makes him great for bullying tanks and forcing enemies into bad positions and taking that space. But that's all he really has going for him. So if your team is losing front lines and nobody else swaps after you've asked for more damage in the front line, you gotta swap. Believe me, I've played this character a ton, and so many teammates ignore the refreshes, so I cannot get maximum value, and then they stat pad. Oh, you're 2 and 5 and I'm 3 and 4, therefore you gotta swap. Like, it's not how the game works. That's why I said in my solo queue guide, none of that shit matters. Synergy and objective are the most important thing in this game. Whenever I play Bucky, I always make sure to communicate that to my team, and if they don't listen or help me get the refreshes, then I'm just shit out of luck. So that's kind of the life of a Bucky player. Bucky was never a broken or overpowered character. All the people who thought he was just had zero team coordination because it was early in the game's development, so people didn't really know how to play. Now that everybody is much more coordinated and they all know how to play together, he is a lot less threatening than he ever was. If your team is losing main even with the Bucky and nobody swaps, you have to go to a more dive-oriented carry for solo picks. That's the only way to win in these types of scenarios where you have zero main damage and your dive is losing. Believe me, I've been in these situations so many times and people will pad their stats and be like, oh my god, Kingsman, you fucking suck! And it is so frustrating because you know they literally aren't playing the game and you're having like a war, you're having D-Day in the front line while they're just goofing around in the enemy backline not killing anything. Especially whenever you get solo ulted every time you go in. That's just the life of a Bucky player, guy. That's just how it is. But yeah, if you want to learn more about other characters, feel free to check out my other guys. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see all of you guys in the next one. If you want to see any more guides, or if you want to see that Namor guide or other characters' guides, feel free to look at the playlist I've created, or follow the Twitch where I stream daily Rivals content. I do top 500 Smurfs. I play with viewers. I solo queue all the time on my stream. Bye, guys! Thanks for watching. Like and sub if you haven't already.